All right, get ready, because today we're going to be like busting those stereotypes about animals. We're diving into the top tens and their list of top 10 most underrated animals. And it's all from user submissions. So, like what people think are the most overlooked animals.
Yeah, it's definitely subjective, which makes it so interesting. We're looking at what people, what animal enthusiasts online think.
Exactly. And I love me an underdog story. Okay, so number one, and this one surprised me, it's the rat.
The rat. Yeah, they get a bad rap, but as the source points out, they're actually pretty intelligent. They've got amazing problem-solving skills, and their ability to get through mazes, it's legendary.
So like tiny escape artists.
Pretty much. But beyond their intelligence, they're really social. They live in these complex communities with like hierarchies, and they even wrestle and groom each other.
So maybe not as scary as we think. But what about that stereotype, Dirty rat.
Well, that's another misconception. They're really meticulous groomers, spending a lot of time cleaning themselves and their nestmates. They're probably cleaner than some pets, honestly.
Wow, rats are already way more interesting than I thought. And people think they're pests.
It just shows, how we judge based on just a little information. Now, at number 2, this is a curveball, the Megatherium.
The mega what? I could say, not familiar with that one.
It's a giant sloth, prehistoric, giant. Picture an elephant-sized sloth just lumbering around.
That is not your average sloth.
Mhm.
Why is something extinct underrated, though?
That's a good question. The source has some debate about it. Some say it's about appreciating, its place in evolution, how big it was, and its adaptations.
Always remembering all those extinct animals, each with their own cool story.
Exactly. And speaking of overlooked, at number 3, it's the mouse.
Little mice. They always seem so timid, but I've always kind of liked them. Especially the cartoons.
The source mentions how cartoons shape how we think about mice. Think of Jerry from Tom and Jerry. He's clever, resourceful, and always outsmarting Tom.
It's funny how the media does that. But what else makes mice interesting? Besides, cartoons.
Well, they adapt so well to tons of environments. Plus, they're smart. They can learn and remember things that are pretty complex. And like rats, they're super social. They have their own ways of communicating.
Maybe we should stop underestimating them, huh? Okay, now on to something everyone loves, the fennec fox. Those ears.
Those ears aren't just for show. They help them stay cool in the desert. The ears radiate heat.
Like built-in AC.
Exactly. A perfect adaptation to survive in those conditions. And that's just one example, right, of how cool these underrated animals are. Next, we have a bird, and it's known for being really smart, the crow.
Crows are smart, yeah. Like, I've heard they can even use tools.
That's right. They've been seen using sticks and twigs to get insects out of trees. And some even make hooks out of wire to get food. Studies show they can solve problems as well as a 7-year-old.
That's crazy. And they're everywhere. Cities, fields, you name it.
Their intelligence and adaptability are why they're so successful. And some people even have them as pets because they're so smart and playful.
I can see that. All right, let's talk about the blobfish.
Yeah.
Some people think it's overrated for being ugly.
Interesting take. Yeah, the blobfish is known for its unique look, for sure.
Yeah.
But that gelatinous blob-like body, it's actually perfect for living deep in the ocean.
It's not about being beautiful to us, right? It's
Sure.
about what works for its environment.
Exactly. Let's move on to an animal we usually see on land, the goat.
Goats. I love goats. They're so curious and playful and always up to something.
Full of personality. But beyond that, they're pretty amazing. Adaptable, able to live anywhere from mountains to deserts. And in terms of sustainability, they're better for the environment than cows.
Really? How so?
Well, they're both ruminants, but goats' digestive systems are different. So they produce way fewer greenhouse gases, which makes them, better for meat and dairy. Some people are switching to goat milk just for that reason.
That's so interesting. Our food choices really do matter for the environment. And speaking of, the source mentioned someone who has pet goats.
I love hearing those stories about, unique pets. It shows that our love for animals is really personal.
For sure. Okay, let's talk about the dove. Peace and tranquility and all that.
Actually, doves and pigeons are pretty closely related. They're in the same family, Columbidae, and they look and act similarly.
It's funny how we think of them so differently when they're so related.
Yeah. Next up, we have the ferret, a really popular pet.
Ferrets. I've always been curious about them. They're like a mix of a cat and a weasel with all that energy. What makes them stand out, though?
Well, they're curious and playful, for sure. They're known for hiding things, and Ferrets dead sleeping. They sleep so soundly that they look, well, dead.
That's hilarious. No wonder people love them.
And they're smart too. They can learn tricks and their names.
Like tiny clowns they can learn.
Pretty much. Okay, now the liger. A male lion and a female tiger had a baby.
Ligers. They get huge, right?
Oh, yeah. Ligers are bigger than lions and tigers, sometimes over 1,000 pounds. Their size and, how they're bred makes them really unique.
A perfect mix of powerful and majestic.
Yeah.
But they aren't as well known as lions and tigers.
Because they're hybrids, people tend to focus more on the purebreds, but they show how diverse the animal kingdom can be.
Definitely. Now, for an animal that scientists and Pokemon fans love, the axolotl.
The axolot. It's an amphibian with this cool ability called Nuitini. Basically, it stays in its larval form its whole life, unlike most salamanders.
A forever teenager, huh?
You could say that. They live underwater, have external gills, and kind of look like they're smiling.
And they can regrow limbs, right?
Yeah, axolotls can regenerate limbs, even parts of their hearts and brains. Scientists are studying them, hoping to figure out how to do that in humans someday.
Imagine regrowing a finger or a whole arm. That's crazy.
It shows just how incredible the animal kingdom is. Okay, let's move on to the wolverine. Fierce little guys.
Wolverines are tough, yeah. They can take on animals way bigger than them, right? Like deer, elk, even moose.
How do they do it? Strength, for one. And they're fearless. Plus, they have those sharp claws. And they're resourceful, able to live in harsh, cold places.
They sound like they can take on anything.
They're definitely tough. There's even a case of one killing a polar bear. The bear was weak, but still, it shows you how strong they are.
Amazing. A tiny animal taking down something so huge.
Definitely. Okay, now for an animal that gets a bad rap, the hyena.
Yeah, hyenas aren't seen in a very good light, are they? Like they're scavengers or mean predators.
It's true they haven't been shown well in movies and stuff, but it's important to understand their place and challenge those ideas. They're really smart and social, living in clans and communicating in complex ways. And yeah, they scavenge, but they're also great hunters.
So more than just scavengers.
Oh, yeah. Actually, they're often better hunters than lions. Lions kill more than they need, leaving the rest for hyenas to clean up.
Each animal has its own role, right? To keep things balanced. Okay, how about the anteater? People don't often talk about them, maybe because they look a little weird.
Anteaters are so cool. They're built to eat ants and termites. They have a long, sticky tongue that can flick in and out super fast, super efficient.
And those claws, right. I've heard they can even fight off big predators.
That's right. Those claws aren't just for digging. They're weapons, too. They can hurt attackers really badly, even leopards.
Wow. So not as helpless as you might think.
Nope. They can climb trees, swim, and their colors help them blend in. Stripes, bands, all sorts of patterns.
It's like every part of them is made for survival.
Yeah.
Reminds you that beauty comes in different forms, you know?
Exactly. Okay, let's talk about an animal with a lot of stereotypes.
The pig.
Yeah, pigs have it rough. Dirty, unintelligent, but I heard that's not true at all. You heard right. Pigs are super smart, able to learn complex things. They even recognize themselves in mirrors. That means they're self-aware.
Way smarter than we give them credit for them.
Way smarter. They're social, too, and form strong bonds. And they like to be clean. They'll keep their space tidy if they can.
It's crazy how wrong we can be. We should always be open to learning more about animals and challenging what we think we know, right?
Definitely. We've covered the top 10, but there are still so many amazing animals that people don't talk about enough.
Let's take a quick look at some others on the list.
Awesome. I love learning about all these overlooked animals.
First, the goblin shark. Looks like something out of a horror movie.
Goblin sharks. Yeah, they're the ones with those jaws that shoot out, right?
That's the one. Super fast to catch food. Totally unique to goblin sharks.
Straight out of Alien. I can see why people think they're creepy.
It's definitely the look. And because they live so deep, people rarely see them, so they seem even more mysterious.
The ocean is full of crazy creatures. Okay, let's go to the moose.
Moose are the biggest deer, and they're pretty majestic. Big antlers, powerful bodies, and those long legs, you can't miss them.
A little intimidating though, right? I've heard they can get aggressive.
Yeah, if they feel trapped, or if their babies are in danger. But usually they're peaceful, happy to eat plants and avoid problems.
Best to admire them from afar then. Why are moose important though? For the environment, I mean.
Well, they eat a lot of different plants, which keeps the vegetation in check. Plus, they spread seeds when they, do their business.
Even their poop helps. It shows that even the big, scary animals are important. Okay, now for an animal people are terrified of, but that actually helps us out the spider.
People get spiders wrong all the time. Some are venomous, yeah, but most are harmless and even good for us.
Yeah, spiders are our friends. But I'll admit, they still creep me out sometimes. Why are they so important, though?
They're amazing at catching insects, including the ones we don't want around. They keep the populations in check, which helps protect crops and stops diseases from spreading.
So they're actually doing us a favor, even if they scare us sometimes.
Exactly. Speaking of intimidating, let's talk about the badger.
Badgers are tough. I've seen videos of them going after, like, huge animals, and they don't even hesitate.
Strong and tough, yeah. They have powerful claws, sharp teeth, and they're really smart, too. They can learn and adapt to their environment.
They're like tiny wolves or lions, right?
It's so brave.
They are. Badgers are fearless, protecting their territory, and they're young, and they're more social than you might think, living in those big burrow systems with lots of entrances and tunnels.
So much power and resourcefulness in such a small package.
Totally. And lastly, let's talk about an animal that might not be pretty, but keeps things clean. The turkey vulture.
Turkey vultures, yeah. The ones with the bald heads that eat dead animals.
That's right. They're scavengers, eating carrion and stopping disease from spreading. A vital role, even if people don't like how they look. They have an amazing sense of smell. They can find dead animals from miles away. It's like they're made for that job. Not pretty, but super important for the environment. Okay, next is the otter. Super playful and cute, but they're facing a lot of problems, sadly.
Otters are a sign of a healthy water environment, and when their numbers go down, it means we need to take better care of our rivers and lakes and oceans. They're so playful and smart, and they even use tools to open shellfish.
And that thick fur that keeps them warm is also what makes people hunt them, which is awful. It shows how much our actions affect these animals.
It really does. Speaking of animals we don't often think about, let's talk about the sponge.
Sponges. People think they're plants, but they're animals. They're simple but important for the oceans, right?
They are, and they're important for keeping the water clean.
I remember learning that in school and being surprised. They just seem so still. What makes it so important then?
They're filter feeders, meaning they take in water and get their food from it. That cleans the water, making it better for other animals. Plus, they're like little homes for fish, crabs, and shrimp.
The unsung heroes of the ocean. Not flashy, but they're doing important work. All right, let's move on to another big deer, the moose.
The source talks about how important they are for the environment. They control how much plants grow and fertilize the soil. Even big animals that can be dangerous are super important for nature.
Mooses are really impressive, yeah. Their size, antlers, they're like a symbol of the wild. But people tend to forget about them, focusing on bears and wolves instead.
They eat a lot of plants, which creates open spaces in the forest that other animals need, and their droppings are like fertilizer, which helps everything grow.
Even their poop is good for the environment. Everything is connected, huh?
Well, there you have it. The top 10 most underrated animals, plus a few extras. I've learned so much. We challenged some ideas, and I have a new appreciation for how amazing and diverse the animal kingdom is.
And this is just the beginning. There are so many animals out there, each with its own story and its own role in life. We've barely scratched the surface of how many incredible creatures there are. It makes you want to keep learning, right, about all these animals. It's like a never-ending adventure.
It is, and that's what's so cool about this deep dive. It's not about having all the answers, but about wanting to know more and making people curious.
I love that. So to everyone listening, keep being curious, keep asking questions, and keep learning about all these amazing animals.
Every single one, no matter how small, is important.
And who knows, maybe you'll find your own favorite underrated animal.
The animal kingdom is full of surprises.
Thanks for joining us on this adventure. And we'll see you next time for part 2 of our deep dive into these fascinating animals. So what about you, dear listener? What animal surprised you the most? Was there one that you thought, wow, I never realized that animals was so cool? We'd love to hear your thoughts, and we encourage you to, keep learning about these often overlooked creatures.
What makes an animal underrated is really all about perspective, isn't it? That's what makes this list so interesting. It shows us how diverse the animal kingdom is, and it makes us think twice about those stereotypes we all have.
That's what this deep dive is all about. But before we wrap up, we've got a few more contenders from the list that we got to talk about.
Absolutely. Let's give these fascinating creatures their moment in the spotlight.
Okay, first up, we have a sea monkey. Those tiny crustaceans that, magically appear from a packet of dried eggs. I remember those. So cool as a kid.
The sea monkey is a great example of how even the tiniest animals can capture our imaginations. Their brine shrimp, and the fact that they can survive being dried out for so long, that's
A
amazing.
tiny superhero of the sea. Okay, how about the donkey? People think they're stubborn, but they're also super strong and can handle, like, anything.
Donkeys have been working with humans for centuries. They're strong, tough, and incredibly sure-footed. They can walk on those rocky mountain paths without a problem.
And that bray. That's kind of cute, even if it is a little loud.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about a bird that's not winning any beauty contests, but is super important. The turkey vulture.
Turkey vultures are the ultimate cleanup crew. They eat carrion, which keeps diseases from spreading, super important, even if they're not the prettiest bird around. And their sense of smell. They can smell dead animals from miles away.
Nature is amazing, isn't it? It's like they were designed for that job.
Yeah.
Okay, what about the otter? They're so playful and cute, but they're in trouble in a lot of places.
Otters are a sign of a healthy environment, especially around water. When we see fewer otters, it means something is wrong. Plus, they're super playful and smart, even using tools to get food. Have you ever seen them cracking open shellfish with rocks?
So smart. And that thick fur that keeps them warm is also what makes them a target for hunters, which is heartbreaking. It's a reminder that we need to be careful about how our actions affect these animals.
Absolutely. Now, for another animal that people don't always think about, let's talk about the sponge.
Sponges. I remember learning in school that they're not plants, they're animals. I was shocked. They just seem so, I don't know, passive.
They are animals, and they're super important for the ocean, even if they don't move around much.
Yeah, what is it that makes them so important?
They're filter feeders, meaning they take in water and get their food from it. That cleans the water, which helps all the other animals. Plus, they're like little apartments for smaller creatures. Fish, crabs, shrimp. They all love hanging out in sponges.
Like the quiet heroes of the sea. Not flashy, but super important. All right, let's talk about another large member of the deer family, the moose.
Moose are vital to their ecosystems, even though they can be dangerous. The source talks about how they control plant growth and help fertilize the soil. It's a reminder that every animal has a part to play in the balance of nature.
Moose are incredible. Their size, those antlers, they're like something out of a storybook.
Hmm.
But people tend to focus more on bears and wolves, don't they?
Their browsing habits actually help to shape the landscape, creating open spaces that other animals can use. And when they do their business, it acts like fertilizer for the soil.
Even their poop helps the environment. It's amazing how everything is connected. Well, that's it for our deep dive into the top 10 most underrated animals, plus some extra amazing creatures we had to talk about. I don't know about you, but I feel like I've learned so much, and it's changed how I think about some of these animals.
It's incredible how diverse the animal kingdom is. We've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to learn and appreciate.
It makes you want to keep exploring, right? Keep discovering new things about animals. It's like a never-ending adventure.
And that's the best part about these deep dives. It's not about having all the answers. It's about inspiring curiosity and making people want to learn more.
I love that. So, to all our listeners out there, stay curious, keep asking questions, and keep exploring the amazing world of animals.
Remember, every animal, no matter how big or small, has a role to play.
And maybe you'll even discover your own list of underrated animals. You never know what amazing creatures you might find.
The animal kingdom is full of surprises, just waiting to be discovered.
Thanks for joining us on this adventure, and be sure to tune in for part 3, where we'll wrap up our exploration of the animal kingdom's unsung heroes. It really is. There's always something new, right? Some animal we've never even heard of before, just waiting for us to discover it.
Exactly. And that's what makes this whole deep dive so much fun. It's not about giving everyone a list of right answers. It's about making people want to go and learn more themselves.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So, to all our amazing listeners out there, keep those brains working, keep those questions coming, and keep exploring the world of animals. You never know what you'll find.
Don't forget, every single animal, even the tiny ones we barely notice, has a job to do in the big web of life.
And hey, maybe you'll even come up with your own list of underrated animals, the ones you think deserve more love.
There's always something new to learn about the animal kingdom. It's full of surprises.
Thanks for coming along with us on this adventure. We'll see you next time for another deep dive, exploring something new and exciting.